Let's talk today regarding the second point in the first unit, that is normal microflora. Here we are supposed to discuss normal microflora of skin, oral cavity and gastrointestinal tract. Now you must be knowing the fact that human beings, like other animals, harbor a wide range of microorganisms both on their bodies and within the body. This normal microflora, which are associated with host individual, are very important as far as immunity is concerned. Among that also, when you talk about immunity, the innate immunity is very much influenced by the presence of this normal body flora or normal microflora. So normally when you talk about human body normally contains thousands of bacteria and a small number of viruses, fungi and protozoa. Most of these microorganisms which are associated with the host, referred as normal flora, most of these are harmless, and so they most of the time are referred as commensals, but not necessary that always they would be commensals. The member of the normal body flora which is associated with the host, it can be saprophyte, it can be commensals, it can be facultative pathogen, and rarely it can be even true pathogen also. So when this type of microorganisms are associated with the host individual, this is referred as normal microflora. So if you want to define it, you can say that microorganisms that are frequently found on or in the body of a healthy person is referred as normal flora. Right? Now every individual has his or her own normal body flora, and that differs from person to person. There are number of factors which are responsible for the presence of normal body flora. It may be diet, it may be your socio-economic condition, it may be your hygiene, the environment where you live and so forth. Now whatever the type of microflora which is associated with the host individual, whether it is on the body or within the body, this microflora broadly is divided into two types: resident flora and transient flora. Yeah, you can refer it as residential flora and transient flora. As I have stated that this flora, which is normally referred or found to be associated with the host, is very important, or it influences the immune system, and mostly it influences the innate immune response of the host individual. Now these are roughly the body parts, and you will find that these body parts are associated with a huge number of microorganisms. If you take an example, and also you can correlate it with the innate immune system or innate immunity, what you can say. For example, if you talk about the first, that is what you can say, the eyes. Now if you talk about eyes, you know that these includes tears. Tears, it is having washing action. Not only that, lysozyme, which is an enzyme which is present in tears, is known to inhibit the cell wall synthesis, or it inhibits the cell wall, or lyse the cell wall to be very specific, of gram positive bacteria. Not only gram positive, it also lyses the cell wall of gram negative bacteria. So any type of organism when it enters not only organism, any type of foreign material, it may be living or non-living, when it enters into our eye deliberately or unknowingly, what is the first reaction? That it starts, tears starts coming out. So that will wash out that. So that refers to the innate immune level of an individual. Then nose or nasopharynx region, rather you can say, removal of particles by turbinates and humidification. Not only this, nasal cavity or nostrils rather, they contain the hairs, small hairs, which has a repellent action. Then there is seromucous secretion also, that will also take. So there is a list, you can go through it. Uh, Here are the microorganisms. Now, if you talk about nasopharynx region, Streptococci, Haemophilus, Neisseria, then mixed aerobes and anaerobes, Candida, Actinomyces, these are associated with nasopharynx region. Then, if you talk about skin, these are the organisms: Staphylococci, Streptococci, Corynebacteria, Proteobacteria. We are going to see this in detail further. Then, the gastrointestinal tract, which includes stomach, then small intestine and large intestine. So that also contains huge number of organisms. Then genitourinary tract also contains variety of organisms, right? So all these organisms which are associated with the host individual, this is referred as normal body flora. As I stated, normal body flora consists of two types: residential and, you can say, uh, transient. Now, as the name indicates, as the name indicates, residential and transient flora. Residential flora particularly talks about this residential flora, and you can say the transient flora. As the name indicates, transient means temporary, right? Residential is a permanent flora. Now, by definition, when you talk about resident flora, this resident flora, it constitutes a constant population which cannot be completely removed or rather it cannot be removed by washing your hands, washing with detergents, taking bath, washing your hairs and so forth. Means this cannot be removed easily or permanently. You cannot remove it permanently. By washing, even if it is removed for a while, immediately it will flourish and that flora will be maintained. Right? So, I repeat, resident flora constitutes population which cannot be completely removed permanently. Whereas when you talk about the transient flora, this transient flora varies from time to time and are temporary. Depending upon what is the environment where you are living, the microorganism present in that environment will be residing on your body, and that will constitute your, what you can say, the flora. Okay. Now, before going in details, let us talk about the role of this normal flora. What is the role of normal flora? As I stated, they are playing a very important role in maintaining the immune status of the host. They particularly are responsible for non-specific immune response or innate immune response. The members of normal body flora, as I stated, it includes saprophytes, commensals, facultative pathogens and true pathogen. Now, what is facultative pathogen? This facultative pathogen can also be referred as opportunistic pathogen. These commensals themselves many of the time are or gets converted or gets converted into facultative pathogen or opportunistic pathogen. That is, normally when the host defense mechanism is strong or when the host is immunologically strong, many of the organisms, maybe parasites, they remain calm and quiet because the host defense mechanism is so strong that it will not allow this organism to flourish, and therefore they cannot proliferate, they will be there. So their time they remain as a commensal. But as and when the, by some or another means, when the host defense mechanism is lowered down or when the immune power of the host is reduced down, that time these commensals can get an opportunity to cause infection leading to infectious disease. So they can cause infection. So that time they are referred as either facultative pathogens, or you can refer them as opportunistic pathogen. As and when they get an opportunity, they will cause the infection. So this is one thing. These normal body flora can become pathogenic, as I stated, when the host defense flatters, that is reduced down. This also, this particular flora can also be responsible for raising the overall immune response of the individual, right? It raises the overall immune status of the host against number of pathogens. Mostly, how the mechanism? The mechanism which this host normal flora plays in raising the immune status is by defending the organism, pathogenic organism, to invade the host cell. Now, for example, if a person, healthy person, has a flora, every person will have the normal flora, say for example skin microflora. So what this residential flora or which is associated with the host, they will not allow the pathogenic organism to colonize. They will not allow the pathogenic organism to colonize. And in any infection, the first and the fourth most important reaction, which is a specific reaction which needs to occur, is attachment of the pathogen, which is called as adhesion. So pathogen needs to attach to the host somewhere for its proliferation. Unless and until the pathogen attaches to the host, it will not be able, that is to say, pathogen needs to colonize. Then and then only it will be getting the food material for its multiplication or proliferation. But the normal flora will not allow this to occur. They will repel this organism, and therefore we say, and if adhesion is not, attachment is not there, the pathogen cannot establish. And it is very much true that mere entry of a pathogen or an antigen into the body doesn't result into infectious disease. I have already talked earlier also that when you talk about any infection to be successful, it requires a optimum number of organisms to enter and then proliferate, because it needs to express its aggressive factor, and aggressive factor of the organism can be expressed only when the organism colonizes. So this normal flora basically interferes or prevents the colonization or invasion of the body with these foreign particles or foreign antigenic material or pathogens. Right? This is the most important part of the pathogen. So not only the outer microflora, I am talking about the microflora which is present within. Say for example, the microflora of intestine. Right? So intestinal microflora plays a very important role. There are many of the organisms, mostly lactobacilli is there. So most of the organisms, they are having ability to produce variety of vitamins. So these vitamins are absorbed then, right? Not only that, the major role is that they will not allow the pathogenic organism to invade immediately or invade easily. They will be repelling, they will be preventing the attachment of this pathogenic organism, and that way they induce the immune status or overall immune status of the individual. Another one important thing what may occur with respect to the presence of this normal body flora is that many of the time it causes confusion in the diagnosis due to their ubiquitous present in the body tissues and their resemblance to some of the pathogens. For example, I will quote an example, simple example of upper respiratory tract infection, which is called as diphtheria. Diphtheria, this is caused by Corynebacterium diphtheria. Now this organism is a normal flora of the Nasopharynx region. It is morphologically similar to that of diphtheria causing organism. Now many of the time when you isolate or take a swab, nasopharynx swab or throat swab, and go for direct microscopic observation, then you will find that there is presence of gram positive organism. These gram positive organisms are similar to that of Corynebacterium diphtheria. This doesn't mean that the person is suffering, because this is a normal flora. This is a normal flora. So this type of confusion is also there. So there you need to confirm it, whether it is Corynebacterium diphtheria or it is diphtheroid. Diphtheroids are non-pathogenic. These are Corynebacterium diphtheria only, but these are toxigenic one which causes diphtheria, and these are non-toxigenic. So you need to differentiate. So there is one staining method which can differentiate this, called as Albert staining method, which can differentiate between the pathogenic diphtheria and the non-pathogenic diphtheria, right? So this is what we talked about. Now basically we will stop here, and then in the next period or next video I will be talking about the normal flora of skin. Hope that up to this introduction